How much sets per week do you actually need to maintain or to grow muscle? A specific number that is set in stone for every single person doesn't exist, as the body of every single one of us is individual and everybody has different needs and wants. But the maintenance volume to maintain your muscle goes from 0 to 8 reps per week. You might ask yourself, how the fuck could I maintain my muscle with 0 sets? This is muscle group dependent. You cannot maintain your chest or your legs with absolutely no training at all, but some muscle groups like your rear delts, your abs, your forearms can absolutely maintain without training them at all, as they are incorporated in other exercises like forearms, and rear delts are included in rows and pull-ups, and abs are included in almost every single exercise that is not stable enough. But other muscle groups that need work to maintain, like chest, back, biceps, need roughly 4 to 8 sets per week. The minimum effective volume to grow muscle optimally, but to not overwork yourself and spend your whole life in the gym if you don't want to, is 6 to 12 reps. In the 6 to 12 set range per week, you will be in the optimal spot to gain muscle long term and to not overwork yourself, so that you can stay injury free and not overwork your central nervous system. You could stay in this minimum effective zone for several years without plateauing at all. But if you want to take a muscle to the next level, let's say you have a lagging chest, or you want to really prioritize your chest to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, you can up the dose and go to the maximum adaptive volume zone, which goes from 12 to 20 sets per week. You cannot stay in the maximum adaptive volume zone for every single muscle group in your body, as your body can maybe recover locally, but it cannot recover its systemic fatigue. You can only really prioritize a few muscle groups here and there and stay in the minimum effective volume zone for the rest of the body, or maybe even maintain muscles if you enjoy the look of your legs, for example, and you don't want to grow them anymore, but want to keep pushing the limits of your upper body to keep the proportions. That would be an ideal situation. Then there's the maximum recoverable volume, which goes from 18 sets to 25 sets, which I don't recommend anyone to do. You could do it for like a month, 2 months, but after that you would be cooked. Almost no one does it, and if you do and can recover from it, you are lucky to have the genetics to do it. But if you really push yourself to or close to failure, you shouldn't even bother being in the zone from 18 to 25, as it is just too much. What you need to know is that there is a drop off in the time and effort you are investing and the results you're getting out of it, as you won't get more gains if you just do more sets. As you will see in this curve, the minimum effective volume zone is the most productive zone to be in, as you get the most out of your time and effort in the gym. In the early stages of the maximum adaptive volume zone, you will get more out of your work, but it won't be as productive. But once you start pushing the upper ends of the maximum adaptive volume zone, you will start to see a decline in the effort you're putting in the time you're putting in, and the productiveness and the effectiveness of every single additional set that you do on a week-to-week basis will be much lower as in the early stages of the maximum adaptive volume zone or in the minimal effective zone. The maximum recoverable volume is a thing, but to be honest, that's just absolute junk volume in that territory, and you shouldn't bother doing 25 sets per week. The sets you do for a specific muscle groups don't only exist on a weekly basis, but of course the workouts itself. How much volume do you actually need per workout, per muscle group to be in the productive zone? You would need 3 to 10 sets for a specific muscle group within one workout to be in the optimal zone and to not overwork or underwork yourself. The given set range per workout per muscle group of 3 to 10 sets is very big and vague, so to know how much work per workout is actually productive, you will need to learn to listen to your body. If you do 3 sets of bicep curls, for example, and you feel a really good pump and you feel the muscle disrupted, but you think that you could do one more set, then do that one more set instead of just listening to your program. If your program said to do 3 sets, but you know you could do one more, just take that set home for that day. But it could be on another day that you did only 2 sets of bicep curls and your bicep is absolutely destroyed. Maybe you had less calories on that day or the day before. Maybe you didn't sleep right and you cannot push your muscles to the extremes as you used to. If you hit the minimum effective dose of feeling a pump.
The greatest feeling you can get in a gym is the pump. Getting the feeling of coming backstage when I pump up.
Of feeling your muscles being fucking sore in that moment. You can just leave it at that and go on to the next movement. You could do this on a movement to movement basis or on a muscle basis. Let's say you do 2 sets of bench press and your chest is absolutely cooked. You could do another exercise like an incline bench press or a fly and see how your muscles feels there. As a workout doesn't only exist of one exercise per muscle group. It's most likely a variety of exercises per muscle group, and you should just feel and listen to your body, how good the pump is and how disruptive your muscle feels after finishing a set. There doesn't only exist a productive zone to work your muscles, but also a zone where you do just too much and which you cannot recover from. You will know how many sets that is when you start to lose your pump, when you start to feel very achy and like numb in your muscles. And if you do like 4 sets of bench press every single time for a while and you notice your strength doesn't go up at all, but it actually declines or gets weaker, you could just reduce your sets, like just do 3 sets or 2 sets and go up from there if your muscle feels ready again. Or you will notice that you will get too sore the day or 2 days after the workout that you cannot hit the muscle again for another week. You did absolutely too much volume for that specific muscle group on that day. What I do, for example, is to just write 2 sets for every single exercise that I have in my program, but I won't stay at 2 sets most of the time, especially for arms, side delts, forearms, abs, and those little muscle groups. Sometimes I do 3 sets, sometimes 4, especially for side delts. I sometimes do 5 sets, but for big compound movements, I mostly stay in the 2 to 3 set range, as I'm absolutely fucked up after 2 or 3 sets of squats and I don't have to do much more. Just learn to listen to your body and adjust the set range that you do on the go. We discussed the set range for a muscle group per week and per session. Now we will discuss the total sets you can do for several muscle groups per workout. I would suggest you to do 12 sets minimally and 25 sets maximally per workout. If you train a huge muscle group like quads or back, for example, in one specific workout, the sets you do in the total workout would be closer to 12 sets per workout. If you have like an arm day where you train every single little muscle group that you have, biceps, triceps, rear delts, side delts, front delts, calves, abs, forearms, you literally throw in every single fucking muscle group that is small and puny, you can do absolutely 25 sets and recover just fine. If you compare that to a full leg day with 25 sets, you would be absolutely cooked and you cannot recover from that. So think for yourself and maybe adjust the volume bit by bit, push it up a little if the workout exists of like smaller muscle groups, and push it down if you just do big heavy compounds. Just make sure to stay in the 12 to 25 set zone per workout. Also consider your strength levels. For example, myself, I look aesthetic, but I'm weak as fuck. I can only bench 80 kilos for like 6 to 7 reps, which is weak as fuck considering I'm training for like 5 years. This is due to my body type, my leverages, and that my chest is not the best muscle group in my body. Compare that to someone who's very chest dominant and has a 140 kilo bench press for like 10 reps. He would need to do much less volume per workout than I do. So think for yourself, for your specific case, if you're weaker, if you're stronger, if you train little muscle groups or big muscle groups, but stay in that given set zone. As you've noticed, there are lots of factors that determine your weekly volume per muscle group or per workout. The first factor is training intensity. I, for myself, I love going to failure and pushing my limits on a psychological and physiological basis. So if you go to failure on every single set, whether it's bicep curls, bench press, squats, you don't need a lot of volume. You can stay in the minimum effective volume zone and at the start of the maximum adaptive volume zone and be just fine. You don't need to push it up to 20 sets if you go to failure a lot. But compare that to someone who does a lot of reps in reserve work, like 2, 3, 4 reps in reserve. If you train more like a sissy but want to see maximum results, you need to push up your volume and be more on the higher end of the given volume zones. a set isn't just a set, as not every single exercise is created equal. Let's compare a hack squat with a leg extension. Those are two worlds. You can load the hack squat maximally, 140 kilos, 200 kilos, and go into maximal knee bend. The stretch position is focused, which is the most hypertrophic part of the movement of any muscle position, compared to a leg extension, which is an isolation movement, which cannot go as heavy in, which is focused on the top range of the motion, which is much less effective and hypertrophic. One set of hack squats is not the same as one set of leg extension. There are two components that make an exercise more effective or more disruptive than the other, which is compound movements compared to isolation movements. On a compound movement, you involve much more muscles and therefore load it up much more heavily than an isolation movement, which in most cases grows more muscle and is also more systemically fatiguing. The second component or factor is if it's lengthened bias or shortened bias, which just means that, like say, again, the hack squat is much more challenging in the bottom position. When your squats are maximally stretched, this would be a lengthened bias lift, which is much more effective than a shortened bias lift like the leg extension. When we look at these two factors, you get much more out of one set of hack squats than one set of leg extensions. There isn't like a calculator or way to determine, okay, if I do 3 sets of hack squats, that would be like 6 sets of leg extensions. Think for yourself and maybe not put in 10 compounds for your legs on one day, but sprinkle in 2 to 3 compounds and 1 or 2 isolation movements so you don't overwork yourself. Just have some common sense. There's another component which I completely forgot, which is the range of motion. Let's say you do calf raises, shrugs, or forearm work. They have such a limited small range of motion that you can do absolutely more sets as your body isn't moving through such a large space. Let's say a set of RDLs, which also hits the traps and forearms, will be much more disruptive and fatiguing than a set of shrugs. What you also need to consider when picking your volume or your sets is that not every single muscle group recovers the same, as small muscle groups like biceps may need more higher reps. You can go absolutely beyond 12 reps easily and recover just fine, compared to big muscle groups like quads or hamstrings, where going beyond 12 sets would take a lot of your recovery capabilities, and this would not be the same as 12 sets of biceps. You would be absolutely cooked if you do like 15-20 sets of quad work. Smaller muscle groups can absolutely handle more sets and have a better recovery than big ones. But there are some exceptions like the whole back, as the back consists of a lot of fucking small muscle groups combined together into one compound muscle group, which gives it its unique capability of being a big muscle group but having a fucking fast recovery time. You can absolutely do higher volume for back and recover just fine, even if it's a big muscle group. The absolute load that you use on a given exercise and the reps that you do in a given set can also determine how much volume that you need to do per week. Paradoxically, you can do much more sets for a given muscle group or for a given exercise per workout or per week if you do lower reps of, let's say, 5 to 10 reps, as it is much less systemically fatiguing and you don't build a lot of lactic acid in your muscles, which just means that your pump is not unbearing. Compare that to high rep sets of, let's say, 15 to 20 or even 20 plus reps. It is much more systemically fatiguing, as you need to be focused all the time. You're getting out of breath, lactic acid, the pump is just too much. One set of 20 is not the same as one set of 5. Let's take the squat for example. A set of 5 on squats is a fucking breeze. It may feel heavy on your back, but you could just rep it out and rack it, even if it was close to failure. Let's push it up to 8 reps. I don't know if my cardio is out of whack. It is, but just adding those 3 reps is absolutely horrendous. Now let's add 12 more reps to an already absolute hell of a set of 8 rep squats. If you do a 20 rep squats with heavy weights, with going to failure, you will need a fucking week of recovery from just one set. I would advise you to not only stick to the lower rep range for every single exercise, mix it up, do the compounds with heavy weights, lower reps, and the isolation movements, the accessories, with higher reps. When it comes to the volume, that you need to accumulate for a given workout, you need to look at it from a weekly frequency perspective. Let's say you want to prioritize your back. You know now that your back can take a lot of volume and you want to do 16 sets for back per week. If you do just one session per week for back, you would have to do 16 sets of back in one session, which would not be optimal at all. As I said, the optimal set range per workout for a given muscle group is 3 to 10. With 16 sets, you are 6 sets above that. You would enter junk volume territory at that point. So what you could do, what most people do, is to split your work for back into 2 given sessions. Now you would do 8 sets across 2 sessions, which would be perfect. This is almost all you need. But if you notice that after the 6th set for back, for any given reason, maybe your work capacity, maybe the pump's just too much, you notice that you cannot recover from it and that it's just unbearing. Instead of being in the productive zone with 8 sets, you also enter the junk volume zone for your specific body type. Maybe you cannot handle more than 6 sets for that specific muscle group, but you still want to do those 16 sets because you really want to prioritize and grow your back. Instead of just doing 2 sessions, you could do 3 sessions where you hit your back. So 3 sessions with up to 6 sets would be more optimal than 2 sessions with 8 plus sets. Training history, age, genetics, training experience, those are all factors that you need to consider when picking your volume. Someone who has a history in endurance sports may have the capabilities of doing higher volume as they have a more endurance body type. Compare that endurance athlete now with a sprinter or football player. Those are 2 different types of sports which demand different types of muscles. The football player or sprinter has a more fast twitch and more explosive muscle, which means that they could get away with lower volume. There are 2 thought processes now. Maybe the endurance athlete has more like an endurance body already, like from a genetic standpoint, so he could tolerate more higher volume. But maybe because he was an endurance athlete for a few years, even if his body type wasn't suitable to be one, he trained himself the capacity to do higher volume. Training age. Let's say now you have already trained for 5 to 10 years. Someone who is very advanced and is very strong can get much more out of one single set than a beginner. So even paradoxically, when you think that the more advanced athlete needs more volume, 20 sets blasting every single muscle group, actually it's the completely opposite. An advanced lifter who can rep 315 on the bench, who is very proficient at the movement itself and can activate every single fiber in his chest, triceps and shoulders, needs much less sets of bench press than someone who's a newbie who just benches the bar and doesn't have a flying clue what he's doing. If you are not proficient or strong, it's higher volume. If you're very strong and advanced, it could be lower volume if you choose to. Your genetics, joints, and your muscle development that you gained naturally is also a big factor. Let's say you have a strong point in your legs, but your upper body, especially your chest, is lacking. You could absolutely get away with 6 to 10 sets per week for your quads or your legs, as you are more advanced in that particular area of your body, which means that you're stronger, more proficient, and genetically maybe gifted. Compare that to your weak point, which is your upper body or specifically your chest. As it is your weak points, you're most likely not proficient at the movements that you do for your chest and not very strong at them, which means that you can do higher volume and you should do higher volume to catch up and even out the strengths and weaknesses of your body. Most of the people who are watching this video are most likely like young adults or teenagers, and if you're like 18 to 20, 25 years old, you could blast your body to the absolute oblivion and recover just fine from it. But as you get older, let's say you enter your 40s, your 50s, of course you cannot recover from a lot of volume and you maybe need to reduce the volume significantly. Some dudes may not enjoy reps and reserve training, but more failure type training. Some people like lower volume training compared to higher volume training. Let's say you were an endurance athlete, you are 20 years old, you can do 20 sets for every single muscle group you can, but you don't enjoy the type of training. You like the Mike Menzer 1 set to failure and getting the fuck out of the gym type of training. If that is you, if that is your psychology, if your brain is wired like that, just train like you want to. Don't just stick to the optimal things that I tell you or someone else tells you because they're optimal. You need to also consider your enjoyment factor, your psychology, and what type of gym bro you are. this also isn't set in stone. Maybe at the start of your journey, you want to go to failure on every single exercise. That's what you enjoy. But later on, you want to maybe refine your technique more, become a master at, let's say, the bench press. So you need to up the volume a bit. You need to keep some reps in reserve. Your training style, your psychology, how the fuck your brain is wired will change over time. So don't just stick to that one method that you enjoy right now. You can cherish the time that you have with it, but don't be too close-minded and stay open for change. As long as you can stay consistent for a lot of fucking time, 5, 10, 20, 30 years, you will see massive results. Just make sure to somewhat stay in the optimal set zone per week and you will be fine. So the conclusion is to pick a loose set range per week per muscle. You don't have to just do 12 sets for chest and stick to those 12 sets till you die. Just be loose, be formless, listen to your body, train intuitively, add sets if you need them, reduce sets if your body feels too sore. Let's say you do 3 exercises for chest for a given day. Just stay at the bare minimum of 2 sets per exercise, which would be 6 sets. This would be your starting point. Now let's say you have a very good day, you do 4 sets on one exercise, then 3 sets, then 3 sets again. What the fuck, I can't even talk. That would be 10 sets, the absolute limit of the productive work you can do for one given muscle group in a specific workout. But the other session, you would do 3 sets, your chest is absolutely cooked, you do 2 sets and 2 sets, you did 7 sets instead of 10, your words would not crumble or die if you would do that. Just learn to listen to your body and change the amount of sets that you do for your muscles on the given day. Instead of deciding, okay, I will do 6 sets and leave it at that, even if you could do more. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. That was so cringe, yeah. Kinda was good though.